Andy would have like a bar of soap, say, "Hi, I'm Andy Kaufman. You know me as a major star from Hollywood. I'm going to be in your neck of the woods." Is that how they talk down there? Neck of the woods? And I'm going to be down there, and I'm sure, because I'm such a big star, that you're going to want my autograph and photo, and I'm willing to do it. I will give you my autograph. But I hear there's a cleanliness, hygiene problem in the South. So I really ask, before you shake my hand, there's a product we've been using in the North for a long time now. It's called soap. SOAP. Say it with me. So, and so this is the kind of stuff. And then we did that and sent that in. The promoter said, "Oh, Andy, keep sending these in." So next week, Andy and I made another one. This time he says, it's kind of the same setup. And then he said, there's a stench in the South, but there's a product that we've been using. It's always the North and South. There's a product we've been using up north for many years now. It's called toilet paper. And a few folks in the South began to use this product that we've been using for a number of years. You wouldn't have the stench in the air, and people were listing this. So by the time Andy and I came to Memphis, and I remember we were staying at they booked us at some hotel, and when we walked into the lobby hotel, went to the front desk said we couldn't stay there because they had gotten like a half dozen bomb threats. So we had to stay at somebody's private house, and like I said, that morning, Jerry Lawler wouldn't give him the time of day. So Andy said, "Okay, what we'll do, this is too dangerous. Let's just pull the plug on the match." And George said, "Okay, Andy, but you realize if we do this, you're going to lose $30,000. Because the promoter was furious. He said, "What are you talking about? We're sold out, And the guy says, "Read the and it was true in the contract. If Andy would have walked away now, tickets were sold. That this guy was going to take a bath. He said, "Write me a check for $30,000, and we'll cancel the match." Well, $30,000 back then was like probably $300,000 now, and this was Andy's personal money that he'd have to pay. So we got the lawyer on the phone. He looked at the contract and said, "No, you're going to have to pay this money." But there was one loophole. And you guys know this, a match is legal after 1 minute. So if Andy could go in the ring and run away from Jerry Lawler for 1 minute, just stay away from him. And after 1 minute, that's it. Then the match would be a legal match. Of course, Lawler would have won because Andy would have forfeited. But at least as far as the money paid for the gig, he wouldn't have to pay the $30,000. So Andy said, "Well, let's do that." And George Shapiro was Andy's manager, of course, who in the movie Man on the Moon, Danny DeVito plays, and Paul Giamatti, as you know, plays me. So we were telling him, "Okay, just stay away from him. Stay away from him." And, of course, the night came. Now, by the time we came into the Memphis Coliseum, people had hated Andy so much because of these videos that he made. They brought us in with a Memphis SWAT team. 8 members with shields and helmets is the only way we could come from the back dressing room to until the wrestling ring was with the SWAT team. People were throwing so much. I'm telling you, I was scared. I was really scared. We were walking down the aisle and people were going, "Kill the Jew! Kill the Jew!" I'm going, "Oh my God, what did we get ourselves into?" And I could see Andy was nervous. Andy was brave as all hell, but we were in some place we shouldn't have been. And finally, the SWAT team brought us to the front, and of course, the match started. And for a long time, Andy just started running away from Jerry Lawler. Now, Jerry did a very interesting thing. He put his hands behind he stood in the middle of the ring. He put his hands behind his back, and he said, "Andy." And his voice changed, and he was real nice to Andy, because the crowd was screaming. So you couldn't hear this much, but you could hear if you were there, if you were close enough, you could. And Jerry was saying, "Andy, it's okay. Come and put me in a headlock." So now Andy starts thinking, "Hey, Jerry's playing ball. He's a professional. We're going to put on a nice, safe match for everybody." And I didn't buy it. I'm going, there's too much press out there if Lawler hurts Kaufman, And by now the media knew, everybody, all the women were sick. The regular media was sick of Andy actually doing this wrestling. It wasn't good for his career or anything. So he puts Jerry in a headlock. And Jerry's arms are behind his back. And then Andy starts acting. He's good. He's got him in a headlock and he's grimacing, And Jerry, behind Andy's back, loosens his hands. And for the audience, he puts up his hand in the number 1 and then 2. So they know on 3, Jerry's going to do something. On the count of 3, Jerry moves his hands. He lifts up Kaufman, and he throws him to the ground, crazy. Then he picks Andy up, and he gives him the most illegal move in wrestling, the pile driver, which is an illegal move, and people have broken their necks with this. And he takes Kaufman, and he gives him a pile driver, which is basically, for people listening, if you don't know what that is, it's where you pick your opponent up, you pick him up upside down, you lift him in the air, you jump in the air yourself, his head is between your legs, and you pile his head and neck straight into the mat with all your force. He knocked Kaufman out cold. The place, the bloodletting, people were out of their minds. Kaufman was knocked out cold. I tried to get into the ring. It was bedlam. Everybody stopped. Even everybody all the professionals around realized this was bad. And then Jerry the Pig Lawler picks up my buddy again, who's unconscious, and gives him another pile driver into the mat. At this point, the match was called. I don't think that match lasted more than a minute and a half or 2 minutes. That was it. Jerry Lawler had done his dirt, and at this point, this was a serious, and when there's a serious neck injury, what happened is they brought the ambulance in and backed it. It took a while. It took about 15 minutes for an ambulance to get there, and they backed it right into the Coliseum and right up to the ring. And they took one of those special gurneys, that they slide under you if somebody had some back injury, because they don't even want to pick them up. They want to slide this under you. And Kaufman was out cold. They put him on that, and he was taken to the Memphis hospital, the same hospital that Elvis Presley died in. Now, what was interesting, by the time the ambulance got there, bedlam had broken loose. It was total chaos. People were cheering. It was very anti-Semitic, is all I could say. It was scary as all hell. And Kaufman had brought a girlfriend with him, and George Shapiro was there as manager, and myself. And when he was loaded into the ambulance, the girlfriend went in first, then George Shapiro, his manager. I was about to step in to the ambulance, and the ambulance operator said, no, only 2 family members can get in. And they closed the doors and left me there when the ambulance left. Now that the big star, Andy Kaufman, was gone, the Memphis SWAT team had also left. Now, all these people, you had thousands of people who were out of their mind with this bloodlust now. Kaufman was knocked out cold. He was taken to the hospital. I am standing there alone, and people start yelling, "That's his buddy! That's the Jew's buddy!" And now I, unprotected, have to walk myself down the aisle back to the dressing room where all my stuff is so I could get the hell out of there. And that was it was the longest walk I had to do in my life, and I realized I wasn't going to make it alive. There was such hatred. Like I said, the bloodlust had run. People had tasted blood. I was going to be another victim here, and I did. What I did, and I'm not a big guy, and I started walking back, and I realized, oh, this is not good, because everybody spotted me. I said, you better do something smart, Zmuda. So what I did, I looked for the biggest guy I could see, and I walked right up to him, and I made believe I was Buddy Rogers or something, and I slapped this guy as hard as I can in the face. And this big guy, and he was shocked, and everybody was so shocked by my behavior, and I was acting like a brute, that I was able to kind of swagger back to the dressing room without anybody confronting me. They just thought, this guy's nuts. Once I got in the dressing room, I locked the doors and I crawled out the window and took a cab over to the Memphis hospital where Kaufman was. Now, to get to what you're talking about, the Letterman moment. So this was it. So now Andy was in the hospital. They did x-rays. He had sprained his neck very badly. He was there for a number of days, and finally they said he was going to be okay. He had to watch his neck. He had a terrible sprain. He could have had a broken neck. I don't think Jerry Lawler would have cared. And I think Jerry was kind of even shocked that he didn't have a broken neck. And then Andy wore a neck brace for the next 6 months. So this all went on, and it made the papers all across the country. It was probably the biggest item that ever even made the sports. It not just made the theatrical page, or the front pages, but it made the sports page all across the country. It was a huge story. Jerry Lawler got what he wanted, and in a way, Andy Kaufman got what he wanted. And it really, for the first time, took this professional wrestling, studio wrestling, and really gave it its biggest hit yet. So, of course, back to David Letterman. Letterman had seen this. He had Andy on the show many times. So Letterman called up, or his people called up Andy's management. They called up Jerry Lawler's management. And they said, hey, look, and this was this was a while afterwards. And they said, look, Andy, would you be willing to go on David Letterman's show and bury the hatchet with Jerry Lawler? And Jerry will also apologize to you for his behavior on the air. David thinks it would make for great television, because to bring these two opponents together. Excuse me, I just took a drink here. So Andy said, why not? So we all went to New York and to the Ed Sullivan Theater, and of course David had Andy and Jerry come out and sit there, and Letterman had shown the clip from Memphis of the injury and everything else, and everything was kind of going nice, and because everybody understood that there was going to be, that they were both going to apologize to each other. And even Andy, who had the neck brace on, and he was still, and he admitted to David that he probably, it was a mistake to ever wrestle a man. And then, in fact, he learned his lesson, and he wasn't going to wrestle anymore, And then, of course, David asked Jerry to apologize. And that's when it got a little strange, and Jerry was him-hawing around. And, and then slowly it was just like it was a mistake, them both getting together again like this. It didn't take much for it just to get into a shouting match again. And I remember Andy's dad was in the wings. He always wanted to sue Jerry Lawler for it, And one thing led to another, and he kind of hinted, Jerry kind of hinted that Andy wasn't he said something. Oh yeah, Andy said, why don't you just apologize like a man? And Jerry said something like a man, like you're a man, kind of insinuating that he might have been gay or something, and that was it. And the next thing, Andy started yelling at him. And Jerry couldn't take it and got up. We all thought Jerry was just going to leave. And I don't know what got into him, but Jerry, once again, looking for publicity, got up and he just put his arm back and he just let it go. And he slapped Andy right out of that chair. if you ever see the slap, it's really quite amazing. And that was it. I mean, this was a live show. Everybody went crazy. Immediately, security ran in there. The camera operators, they didn't know what to do. Letterman jumped up out of his desk, and Kaufman, and Kaufman just ran off, and then Kaufman came back in, and he had grabbed. He was so upset, and Andy would never say a bad word in his life. Andy started swearing like a sailor. Of course they bleeped it for TV. But and then Letterman always had that cup of coffee there that he would drink, a hot cup of coffee. Andy picks up the hot cup of steaming coffee, and throws it straight into Lawler's face, and that's it. Lawler goes crazy, and Bedlam. They just broke the commercial. Security came in, and of course the next day everybody in America was talking about it around the water cooler.